to another great episode of Secure Podcast. As always, I am your host, Danny Caballero, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you Greg Hake, a retired Navy SEAL entrepreneur. Today we're going to talk about not just resilience, but we're going to talk about his journey, because I feel the greatest way to give people inspiration to take that bold step into the unknown in the civilian life is to hear these awesome accounts of doing it, actually living it. So, Greg, thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Denny. Really appreciate you inviting me on the show, giving me some space to chat, run my mouth. So I do it well. It just comes naturally to me.
Yeah, man. I think that's one of the things that make us such great SOF professionals is we're not afraid to talk. We're not afraid to get in there. I mean, we've always had to pitch ourselves or the mission and get approval.
I would say that depends, though, because within certain aspects of, we come from different communities within the SOF perspective, but I would contend that they're probably near identical, very similar at the very least, is that within a certain space, within the SEAL community, people are very quiet and don't talk about certain things. And one of them is the topic that, we're talking about today, which is mental resilience. And a lot of guys in the past have suffered in silence. And that has snowballed into a place that can be very dark and intimidating. And a number of our teammates, I have no idea what the numbers look like, honestly, from a broad perspective. But there's a number of people that have opted out on their own. And that's a very, very sad tale and tragic. Not to get intense right away. And it's a reality of the position that we're in as a community and as a nation.
Yeah, it's the absolute truth. Before I went through it myself, I just thought, well, losing brothers to mental health issues, I just thought, oh, you know what? It's just a fluke. And then becomes another one, then another one, another one. And you realize when you're going through it, it's like, oh, wow, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And if we don't take the right steps, if we don't reach out for help, if we don't talk about it, if we don't normalize being able to embrace these ideas, like it can happen to me. And I was really close. Thankfully, I was able to address it and get help and do like the most shameful thing, go to the inpatient treatment center. Start asking for help. But when you're on the other side of it, when you're healthier, you realize, holy shit, if I would have just done a few things differently when I was a senior E7 before I became a warrant officer, if I would have done a couple things differently as a staff sergeant, man, I wouldn't have been here. And that's one of our primary missions here, is be able to talk about like, hey, you can have that 20, 30-year career in SOF. You can do it. You can be healthy doing it.
Yeah, agreed. I think that there's a number of things that could be done within the community. And admittedly, I'm not sure exactly what is being done. I still maintain communication with a number of SEALs that I worked with, put through selection, or went through selection with, that are still within the community. And you and I both know that from a training perspective, and granted, I've been out of the SEAL teams for 4 years, so what does that look like now? Probably hasn't changed too much. And there have been some changes, whether those are significant or not, I'm not sure. So you're cramming so many events into a training cycle. And then to add one more thing, and it's always just one more thing. And the joke within the community is, it's 180 pounds of lightweight gear, right?
Yes.
And because it adds up. And so where do you find that time? And then those administrative weeks, when you come back to the team, quickly turn it, they're just as packed as when you're on training. And so like for me, just looking back, like the deployments were the dessert. It was, this is easy. All you have to worry about is the mission. I don't have to worry about bills. I don't have to worry about kids. I don't have to worry about all of this other stuff. I'm just here. And it's a lot of times it's less stressful than being back in a training cycle and trying to balance all those things.
It's the true known factors. These are the things that we understand completely. Yeah. And I always laughed at it because I was just talking to a buddy of mine. It's like, it's the known thing. Like, it's easy for us. Like, I don't have to worry about food. I don't have to worry about any bills. I just go out there and I do my job,
You just show up
and
and
it just
everything's taken care of. It's honestly, we're very spoiled from that perspective.
yes. Yeah. So tell me about your journey, man. I know that everybody's different, and I found you through the world of LinkedIn and the internet, and I just want to. I feel that you have an interesting story, and I want to bring that out to everybody right now.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, Denny. I'm a champion of my own narrative, so I believe that it's unique though too. But I grew up on a farm in Nebraska. I literally went to a one-room schoolhouse, and at a very early age, decided that I wanted to be a SEAL, and did a couple about a year of college. Actually, was a music major, if you can believe that.
No way.
So I was a vocal major, and then quickly ascertained that I didn't have the drive to make it within that space, and probably the talent too. Like, I was gifted within singing. My mother sings and is very musically talented, and it just wasn't like for me. And I quickly shifted gears, enlisted in the Navy, and tried to go be a SEAL. And at the time when I joined the military, there was not a waiver for laser surgery for your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And so then there wasn't like a broad presence on the internet either. This is back in the 90s, where
Yeah.
people forget that you didn't have this thing here that could connect you to almost every
Yeah.
ounce of knowledge in human existence. In order to find information about being a SEAL, you had to go to a recruiter. They inserted this old VHS tape, and the process literally at the time was, if you want to be a SEAL, you sign a contract, you go to boot camp, and then you just raise your hand at one point and say, I want to volunteer. And that was it. And I found out in boot camp that I didn't qualify because of my eyes. And I said to myself, well, now what do I do? And I went to the regular Navy as a cryptologist for a couple of years. The military changed its stance on laser surgery. And I found that out kind of by chance, just because I was persistent and just kept looking for different loopholes.
Yeah.
And I submitted a package to BUDS, which is the selection pipeline, just like the Q course for you guys. And I got accepted, went to BUDS, and then did a 20 year career in the SEAL teams.
Yeah.
And after that, I got out, and it was really interesting to go through the mental gymnastics of leaving that community, because I'd wanted to do it from such a young age. And on my last combat deployment to Iraq, my son and I were FaceTiming, which is just so crazy, because at the beginning of those deployments, I did 6 deployments, which isn't that many in the great scheme of things. I wish I could have done more, honestly. And at the beginning of the deployments, you would get an email here and there, depending on connectivity, because everything else was dedicated to VTCs, which is video teleconferencing, which now here we've got this, and it's like not a big deal. Whereas I remember, being on a forward operating base, it was, hey, we have to cut bandwidth in order to do a VTC for mission coordination and stuff. And it was a big deal. And here we are, we can do that stuff from our phone now, which is just so crazy. But I was on a FaceTime call with my son, and I had essentially been gone most of his life, and he was almost 5 at the time, and he was just completely inconsolable. And that really impacted me. And I just remember getting off of that call and going, I think it's time to do something else. It's time to hang up the spurs. And it took more than a minute to process that and think, gosh, I'm going to walk away from this. And it's something that I've always wanted to do. And here I am at the end now, and it's my choice, because I was looking towards the next career milestone.
Yeah.
I was a team leader. I was going to do a troop senior enlisted advisor position, which is an E8 to E9 position. And then after that was looking at getting my own SEAL team. And, it's just like the dream. And here I was walking away from it. And so that took a minute. And I went through a transitional course after I decided to leave. I went to a training command and then went to the Honor Foundation, which is, I think you're an alum too, right? Yeah.
Yep. Oh,
so the Honor, for the people that don't know, the Honor Foundation is a nonprofit that specializes in helping special operations personnel transition out of the military and add value to the private sector. And so I did that and then went on what they call a trek to Dallas. And a woman that I engaged with, and I literally had dinner with her last week. Her name's Kim Arnold, and she helped me get my first consulting gig and client there in Texas. And I went on a trip there after this trek. Her and I connected, and I helped build out some leadership curriculum for the organization that she was a part of at the time. And I got paid well. And I remember flying back, and I was like, I could do this full time. And so while I was still in the military, I started building out a client portfolio. I created an LLC and I created my own consulting business. And my biggest client actually called me the Thursday before I retired, and they said, "Are you retired yet?" And I said, "I retire tomorrow," which was June 28th, ironically enough. It was Red Wings. So it was a very significant day there from a SOF perspective.
Yeah.
So retired on Red Wings. And then that next Monday, I flew out to Connecticut to engage with this client, which later I was asked to come on full time as a director of operations. And that organization is Biohaven Pharmaceuticals. Helped that company within my own sphere of influence grow. They went public, actually opened up the stock market one day, which was awesome. I've got this little metal name tag over here on my kind of like private sector I love me wall, which is like opening bell ceremony. And then that company eventually got acquired by Pfizer for $13 billion. And just a great organization. The startup world is very similar to the SOF world because it's got a bunch of driven people that want to succeed and build something and just are at the pinnacle of private sector excellence, if you will. And so for me, building a consulting company, which was great being my own boss, and then transitioning into an organization, it was very similar to what it was like being in a SEAL team because it was incredibly fast paced because you were driving towards this, hey, we are trying to grow. We're trying to gain market share. We're trying to gain market dominance. We are trying to really, really invest in the lives of our patients. And I'm so grateful to have been involved in an organization that had just such great culture, and they call it the Biohaven Way. I was fortunate enough to help quantify that, and they still have it on their website because I was stalking them the other day. And I'm just like, yeah, hey, I helped with that, and it's
like a proud father.
Yeah, from that perspective, it's still a great organization. The CEO, the COO, and the other staff, my bosses there, they're just great people, and so it just really, really landed well. And then went over to Pfizer briefly and was given a severance package when they started cutting people from the leadership capacity because they wanted the molecule. Biohaven at the time had a 7-molecule portfolio, which means like 7 different drugs. They purchased 2 of them, and I went over to help with that. And I kind of knew when that happened, I was like, okay, I'm probably going to get a severance. And I got one in February, and I was sitting there asking myself, well, now what do I do? And I looked into W-2 employment, and the universe was just guiding me towards starting up my consulting company again. Mm-hmm. And so here I am with Fatal Flaw 2.0. It's a leadership development company, and I've got some clients, and I specialize in helping late seed and Series A startups that want to grow and bring their product either to a broader market, want to get acquired, or want to go public. I help them build good company culture through leadership practices and execute on a decentralized leadership framework so they can bring their product to a broader market. And that's what I do, and that's my journey, man. And along the way, I also got a master's degree at USC, as if I wasn't busy enough. So I was at a startup and also doing the executive MBA program at USC. So shout out to USC for just being really engaged in the special operations community. There's a Marine Raider in my class as well. So shout out to Don Tran. And he has his own business, just a phenomenal entrepreneur. And in the classes in front of me, there's actually a guy that I went through buds with. So USC has a strong desire to invest in the special operations community in Southern California. And there's a pretty good sized community. You've got the SEAL teams, you have the Raiders, and then you have the SWICs. And there's actually a reserve ODA team in Long Beach. There's two
Really?
teams there. Yeah, remember when we went back into Afghanistan? They're the ones that dropped all those MOABs there.
Okay.
So like they were doing all that stuff. Actually, when I was at a training detachment, we had a loose relationship with them because we would come up there and it's like, hey, do you guys want to role play for fun? And they're like, yeah, sure, let's come out. And they showed us some footage, and it was just very impressive. Like that, I've never seen one of those go off in person, but it
Yeah.
was pretty legit. So anyway,
Yeah.
let me take a drink.
Absolutely. I think it's wonderful how so many of us, once we leave and we don't let our fire die,
No,
we grab more fuel and we stoke the fire. I never thought I'd find myself in mental health advocacy and teaching mindfulness and meditation. That's completely opposite of my degree and school ambitions when I was a warrant officer on a team.
yeah,
Uh, but I found something that worked for me, and I found something that was interesting. I found something that I was like, okay, I can bring this back. I can identify something that's unique within me. And I've seen that in so many of us that are successful in pursuing our purpose and passion and not just falling wayside. But I also see guys that do that. They come out and they say, I'm done. I'm retired. I have nothing else to achieve. And it's like, no, brother, like get back in the fight. If you don't, if you allow your mind to slow down and you don't get engaged again, like you're not going to live for long. And I've seen it. I've seen guys
it's
that,
very true.
yeah,
Very true. And Denny, I want to hit on something is that you may not have had that degree path, if you will, and that is hard earned knowledge.
yeah,
And in spite of there being mental health professionals out there that have master's degrees and doctorates and have had, their own practices, the value that you bring because of where and how you acquired that knowledge, I would contend that you will probably be equal to or better than that professional because of the struggles that you have endured. And it's the same thing from a consulting perspective, like the Deloittes and the Boston consulting groups that are out there. Those are
yeah,
awesome organizations full of top-notch people. And I literally had a client tell me, they said, hey, those are great organizations. And I have every confidence, Greg, that you will be able to come in and do what they do in less time and in a more effective manner because of how you acquired your knowledge, which was the hard fought lessons within combat and working within the space of the SEAL teams. And just because you're surrounded by amazing individuals in an incredibly stressful environment, and therefore it's like, hey, rise to the top or just get pushed aside, and which is a
yeah,
great competitive environment, sometimes negatively so, but that's by design. And you 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 just really really ingrain those lessons learned and that knowledge in just such a way that I think is difficult to duplicate in a private setting. And it's not that the mental health professionals that go to Stanford or Harvard are any less qualified. It's just that they acquired that knowledge in a different setting. They weren't
yeah,
sitting in a car or in a closet with a gun in their lap and or hearing about their friends that had gone that route or dealing with depression in that dark lonely space. And so there's that element of, if I want to save myself, I need to learn these practices and incorporate them. You really, really figure out what, and just because you're a special operations person, like you sort through things super quick. Like that's a skill within special operations, is being able to learn and incorporate those new skills really, really quickly. It's a superpower. So,
absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that. We are so successful on the inside, but then we fail. A lot of us fail at being able to take everything that we've done and match all those skill sets with careers on the outside. And when guys think of consulting, they don't understand that a lot of our senior NCOs or senior officers have viable knowledge, they have
oh my gosh,
information
they
and
do.
skills. And they're like, well, I can't do that. It's like, how do you know?
How do you know?
The name might seem scary, but you do this on a daily basis.
Yeah. It's just what is that when you become an instructor? There's, at least within NSW, there's a course, there's an instructor course, you get your,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it's called, but there's the lack of common core language, right? And so we have these different terms within the military. And then there's even more terms outside of the military, depending on the organization that you're in. But generally speaking, there is a lot of crossover. And it's just a question of educating yourself or getting educated on that. That's one of the reasons why I went and got my master's. Is I said to myself, business is the new battlefield. I'm not Will Hunting from the movie. I can't just learn everything with a library card. I need some semblance of structure because I'm so ADD. And it was, I want to learn business. I want to gain access to a great network, which is the Trojan network. And I also, it's just like when you're in the military, you walk in, I got a trident on my chest, and it's bona fides. It's street credit, and you need that on the outside. And I think a lot of operators are, well, I'm a team guy. I've done this stuff. Of course I'm qualified. It's like, yes, and that will open the door for you and get you engaged in conversations, but it might not keep you in the room. You still need to earn that place. And team guys, special operations individuals excel within earning that slot because we're driven. And you talked about guys that get out and take a knee. There's absolutely benefits to that. And I think a lot of frogmen that I know, they take that route, they take a break, and then 8 to 10 months into that break, you get a text or a call, or like we have a community app, SEAL Future Foundation, which is just awesome. And so like all the guys are on it, and you see, I'm going nuts. I need to go do something. I've got to do something with my time, because you're standing there and you go, what do I do with my hands?
Yep.
So
yeah, that's something that's happening right now in my network, my core group. A few of us got out and went full-time stay-at-home dad, raising the kids that they hadn't.
I have a buddy that does that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
being
loves
able to give back. Yeah. And it's been, for a lot of us that got out right about the same time, we're now hitting each other up with like, hey, who wants to do a hike through the Northwest Forest, or who wants to go do a hunting trip? Who wants to do a long-term like camping and guiding? And it's like, dude, all of us are now realizing like, hey, we need something. We need a great adventure. Like, holy shit.
Yes. So true. So true. I mean, for me, my great adventure currently is rebuilding my consulting business, which is awesome. Yeah. And there's those things that you talked about that I also want to do. That I have 2 grown children. One of them's married, and it's nice to be able to not be on that deployment cycle and say, oh, hey, I'm going to come visit you. Because my oldest too, particularly my oldest daughter, like she bore the brunt of a 22-year career because I was absent from her life. And now it's time to, hey, sorry, I was pretty selfish in this endeavor, and I want to invest in you and develop that relationship that we didn't have. So those trade-offs that people don't talk about, that being in the SOF community.
It's hard. It's, and even if you don't have kids, there's that extended family. There's the people you're trying to reconnect. And man, that is a hard thing. Or if you're in my shoes and you didn't prioritize family, and now it's like, holy shit, I'm going to be 40. And I only now realize the importance of fatherhood, the importance of developing that. That's a core skill. I look at my professional tracker of all the things I did and prioritize. Like, got to go to jump master school, got to go to free fall, got to go to
You
free
got to
fall
go to free
JM,
fall, got to
got
go
to
to
go
free
to
fall
sniper
jam.
school.
Yeah.
Oh man, I got to do this. I got to do this. And that tracker is just boom, 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 boom,
There's
boom.
this tour, there's that tour. And like you get
Yes.
lost in that. I've
Yeah.
often told people that being in the SEAL teams is not a job. It's not even a career. It is an all encompassing lifestyle
Yep.
because you spend all of your time with SEALs. And then when you have free time, the team gets together.
Yep.
And so, like, you're always with one another. And inevitably,
Yep.
you're always talking about work.
The same.
And
Yes.
yeah, and it's just because that's what you know, and you're talking. And guys have hobbies where they go jumping or
Yep.
they're going on their own shooting trips, and it's just it's unlike any environment that I've ever heard described outside of SOF.
Yeah.
People just don't do that stuff
When I
except
was
in
going,
that space.
yeah, when I was going through my recovery and finally talking to a recreational therapist, and I heard that, I'm like, I don't need a therapist for having fun. And it's like, well, what do you do for fun? I'm like, God, I shop online for this kit. I buy this kit. Then
That's so
I go shoot
true.
my guns. I go shoot my guns. I sit down and I look for the next thing that I'm going to need for this deployment. It's like, those aren't hobbies. You're just doing stuff for work at home. It's like, oh
Yep.
shit. But even the things that I wanted to try, I would be ashamed of putting time and effort into it. Photography was a long love of mine for a long time. Never did it because I felt, no, it's taking time away from me studying or learning something that could be useful.
Yep.
And now I realize, like, shit, finally realizing my identity, finally realizing the things I love and want to do on my own. It's like, oh shit, man, like that. I'm starting to live my life really late in life, but it feels great. It finally feels great because I don't have to have a purpose and tie it into work if I just want to go out there and do a beach walk. If I just want to walk and enjoy the water and be out there, that's my own recreation. That's just for me.
I do that too. It sounds cliche, but I do enjoy long walks on the beach at sunset.
It's the manliest fucking thing ever. I don't care what anybody says. I remember reading something, I think it was from the Daily Stoic about
that's a
with
great
yeah.
letter. That's a great letter.
Yeah. Just what to do when you need to think. You go walk. Go walk. Go physically walk. It does me no good to sit here and stew in front of a computer or downstairs
There's
on a
data
couch.
behind that too.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
motion helps stimulate thought. Exercise in
Yes.
particular helps stimulates thought.
Yeah. What are some things that you found now on the retirement side that cultivate not just gratitude and that resilience, but are pouring back into your soul? What are some things that you do now?
I have a routine in the morning that I try and execute on as often as possible. I'll wake up, I'll journal a little bit as I like brew the coffee. I do a cold shower, and I just recently bought a ice chest freezer from Best Buy. I'm literally putting it right out here on my patio, and so I do cold, which is crazy because I'm a SEAL and I spent so much time in a training capacity and a little bit from a real world perspective, freezing cold and wet. And I have found so much value. And listening to the Huberman Lab podcast about cold treatments and the dopamine release, and as we both probably have operator syndrome from our endocrine system being crushed from the high amniostatic load. Anyway, not a medical professional, but so I'll do a cold shower right now for a minimum of 5 minutes to get things going. I will do a Chinese like movement exercise called Qigong, and there's a friend of mine, he's a crazy Chechen who lives out in Utah and has his own coaching practice. His name is Rom Za. I went out, I had like a really bad resurgence of PTSD last summer, and I went out for a week long. He was like, hey, come out. It's like, you don't have to pay anything. We're friends. Let's go up into the mountains. And he was in Wyoming at the time. And I went there and he showed me how to do that. And so I do Qigong every day, which is movement and breath centric. And that is so valuable. So building in mental resiliency, cold, journaling, breath work, and exercise are just like huge. And then also I try and get out in the morning hours between 6 to 9, like the Huberman talks
Yeah.
about, to get that sunlight.
Sun.
I've listened to that podcast about sleep because last year, um, I just had this huge resurgence of PTSD, and I was sleeping like 3 hours a night, and that was fitful sleep. And I was double dosing on the sleep meds that the VA had given me. I was double dosing on melatonin, taking like 10, 15 milligrams, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
And then I was also double dosing on CBDs. I was taking like 10 to 15 milligrams of THC. And I was still, with all of that, only getting 3 to 3.5 hours of sleep.
Damn.
And I was a mess.
Oh.
And so I looked at what I was doing and I said, this is not working. And I've got to figure this out. And it's got to start with sleep. Because if I don't do this, this is the foundation for everything. And so I stopped all of that cold turkey. And I slept about three hours that night. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, with or without it, I'm getting 3 hours. And a friend of mine, she's awesome. She has a great origin story too. Should have her on here. She immigrated from Iran when she was like 9 and escaped that whole thing. But yeah, she sent me the Huberman Lab podcast and said, here is something for sleep. Let's start there. And she helped me through some stuff. And I slowly started building in resilience by getting in a routine. And the things just slowly built on one another. The journaling helped. The breath work helped. The movement helped. And then the last kind of finishing piece was the cold. And those are the top 4 things that really helped me from a resilience perspective. Does that answer your question, Denny?
Absolutely. No, it's remarkable too, because when you don't experience it yourself, you hear all this evidence, and when you're hearing it from your friends, oh, it's anecdotal. It worked for Jimmy. Well, I don't know if it'll work for me. But then it's Jimmy, then it's Eric, then it's Ryan, then it's Dave, and it's like, oh, okay, maybe I'll give it a try. And it's like, dude, these things have been in practice for a very long time.
Yes,
for a very long time, and it's not to, take away from Western medicine approach. I believe in my medications. I'm an advocate for following what's prescribed, doing your informed research. Don't just take medication blindly, learn what you're putting into your body, but also learn from the practices that have been established for a long time. Cold water exposure is something that's been around for a very long time.
A long time.
In so many different cultures. And that's the thing that blew my mind. Okay, we're not just talking about just Western, we're talking about Eastern, we're talking about so many varying cultures that used it. It's like, okay, there's a power to this. Let's do this. And once I understood as well that mental health is a journey, I'm going to have good days, I'm going to have bad days. I'm not perfect. My anger is still something that I tap into and have to be able to say, hey, you know what? You got a certification in mindfulness, dog. Let go of this shit. There's not this understanding that I'm overcoming all of this and I'll never have to deal with it. Sorry, you will.
Oh,
but you have to be able to tune in and say, you know what? I need more help right now. I need to reach out to my friends, and maybe I can figure out one more thing I can bring in to my toolkit. So right now I'm having a rough go, and I always lean into people that like, I just want to get over this. And I never want to feel this way ever again. It's like, well, sometimes we're going to have to re-engage these things. We're going to be in certain rough spots and we're going to be overwhelmed. But the reality is you'll have tools, you'll have methods to overcome it. And the sleep is one of the most vital things out there. Because the moment your sleep is 2-3 hours and everything falls apart.
Oh my gosh, yes.
If you don't have the discipline, you're not going to journal. You're not going to work out. You're just going to fucking be sitting in that pit of despair and agony and say, well, maybe I'll nap. And then that makes it worse.
So true. So true, Danny. Yeah. And something that resonates with me is, if you heard of Miyamoto Musashi,
Yep.
the five rings, Japan's famous
Yes.
swordsman, and there's that exchange between him and a student, which is, master, what is the path to enlightenment? And his response was, my way is not the way. And so you have these tools out there, and we're all different, and things work for certain people. And so the tools that work for me are the ones that work for me. I can recommend them to you. I could be your mentor, like I'm sure you're mentoring people within this space, and help guide you through this process. And I don't believe there's one silver bullet out there that works for everything. It's going to be a combination of things, one. And then two, I think so many people are looking through this for this quick fix. And as my buddy Rome, and as well as my therapist, and I affectionately refer to her as Spirit Warrior, she's just awesome. She's attached to Seal Future Foundation, and she has a lot of team guys that she helps. I think over 55 or something like that. It's just insane.
Wow, holy cow.
Yeah. So she's just like, it takes time. How long? The question from both of them was, how long did it take you to get to this place? And it's like, well, I'm 46 now. It's like, well, it's going to take a little time to get out of it. Yeah. And it's not going to take 46 years, right? But it may. And it takes a while to build in that resiliency and to process those things. And that's why it's like breath work to calm down the nervous system, the cold to additionally help within that space, getting the sleep so your body gets that opportunity to reset, the exercise so you could be cathartically purge that stuff, as well as from a journaling perspective too. And that resiliency takes time. And one other thing that I added in from a toolbox perspective was a support team. I had my good friend who we talked about earlier. Her name's Shar. She came in. I had my best friend that was still alive from the teams, childhood friend who was also a Marine, but he and I literally went to kindergarten together, and he was up at Camp Pendleton when I was down in Coronado, and we kept in contact. And then a former therapist, and I literally labeled it support team on WhatsApp. And I would check in with him every day when things were really bad. And when I needed support, those people would be able to provide support. And they were a diverse background, but they all knew me very well and provided very, very different insights. And so having that to be able to reach out to as like a rescue, like you have rescue meds for anxiety, if you will, and I'm off all of that stuff now, to have that on, and to know that I could reach out, and even still to this day, and I haven't used that thread for probably a year now, or close to a year. Close to a year. But to have that and to say, hey, I need help, and someone would call me typically within 5 to 10 minutes. That is powerful. And that's something that if you are struggling, I would highly recommend you consider.
Absolutely. And that's one of the beautiful things about what we do at Security Halts. We have our own peer-to-peer support every Sunday night. Being able to see that network grow, and guys that are willing to come back on, and maybe they're not having a rough time that month, and they can come back and pour into somebody else, because it's not about constantly engaging. You don't have to. It's when you need it. You build that network, build that support, and reach out.
Yeah.
You don't have to tread water on your own. Everybody has ever sucked in a pool. And I'm saying this from being somebody that was drowned many a times. Thank you, Micah. I hate water. Will never always give it a rating of two thumbs down. Will not recommend. But there's something powerful about being in an environment that you're not comfortable with other people. You make it through that exercise, and then you suck some air down, and you're like, oh man, this is miserable. This sucks. I don't want to do this. And then you go back and you practice some more, but there's somebody there with you. Shared misery, shared struggle. You don't get through this alone. We get through this together. Reach out to your friends and your family, the people you trust. Have that support network. All it takes is building out, like you said, Greg, a WhatsApp thread, a message on your text message thread. And we're it can be a little bit scary. It can be a little bit intimidating to say, hey, you mind if I build this with you? And we just say good morning to each other every day.
Yeah.
For the longest time, that's something that I needed. And now I'm able to provide that for other people. And it's an amazing feeling. You've already built a brotherhood, whether it was in the military or childhood friends. Rely on it. Give back to each other. Be willing to say, hey, man, good morning. How you doing? Like, or, hey, I'm struggling today, man. Oh, sweet. Let's get on Zoom. We have the
Yeah.
tech.
So true. That's so true. And it's not like I was struggling just this weekend. And why? Oh, well, when I look back at it from a hindsight perspective, I had a business development trip to Dallas. I was working 14-hour days while I was there, and I'm an extroverted person. And at the end of the second day, I looked at my girlfriend and I said, I'm exhausted. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
done. I was like, I'm done talking to people. And she was like, oh. And so it's not a surprise because I was running myself ragged. I wasn't executing on my routine. I wasn't doing like the cold. Well, I did the cold in the morning, but that was really it. I wasn't sleeping a lot. And so this weekend I had a little bit of a crash.
Yeah.
And it's not that when you figure out these tools, it never happens again. It's just that you know where you need to go, I think. And it's still difficult when you're in a crummy place to go, I feel terrible. I just want to lay down and not do anything. You have like those reflashes and all the thoughts come in, and it's an exercise of discipline to get back up and go, all right, I'm going to go set myself up for success. I'm going to do the cold shower. Man, that helps so much.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go out. I'm going to do qigong. That really helps because there's movement and breath work. It's like, okay, all right, I feel better. Okay. And I could do a 5-minute breath sequence throughout the day that's on YouTube that Rome showed me how to do.
Yeah.
And that really helps. And so it's not that it never happens again. It's just that you understand what's happening and you can say, okay, this is not a surprise because these things happened. And
Yeah.
now it's time to get back on the horse.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up because we all have struggles. I do it. I have my own issues, but people tend to think that once you get to a certain point, you never get tested. It's like, no, we all have limited capacity for what we can give to others. And when our cup runs empty, we're exhausted, we're
Oh, yeah.
drained, we shut down. And if you are your primary job is to engage and to provide feedback and be something for everybody, at the end of the day, you're going to run dry and it's okay. I
Yeah.
remember when I didn't know about caregiver fatigue, you want to do nothing but coaching sessions. You want to do nothing but reach out and teach mindfulness and meditation to as many people as you can. And then you
Mm-hmm.
realize, like, holy cow, no, like, I just want
Yeah.
to shut the
There's a
door, close the
limit.
blinds. Yes,
There's a
absolutely.
limit.
Yeah. And we never experienced it when we were in it because it was a different type of job. Hell yeah, I can keep going. Another round, let's do it. Grab it up. Let's get up and let's go.
Yeah.
And it's
I
so
just got to
different.
make it to that next deployment, you know?
Yes. It's so different feeling that because when you're doing, whether it's helo casting, fast rope training, or just doing shooting, it's always like, yeah, one more. I can do one more. Fuck it, drink water. Let's go. Let's go.
Yes.
Let's keep going. When you get on the outside and you're doing different types of work, different types of engagement, it can get very, very draining. And it's like, shit, this is a new feeling. This is a fucking new feeling. I don't have the
Yeah.
dudes next to me to be like, fuck, man, take a knee, drink water. All right, eat some lunch. We'll keep going. There's even when you make it out of a mission, come all the way back to the team room, you AAR it, you're exhausted. If they were to say like, hey, kid up, you got another mission you got to go to in 2 hours, it's like, cool, let's go. Here, it's like, nah, dude, like I'm making dinner. I'm chilling the fuck out. Like it's a different feeling. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
think enough people talk about it.
No, I agree. I agree. And I think within the SEAL community that we're getting better at that.
Yeah.
And there's still a long way to go.
Oh,
There's
definitely.
still a long way to go.
Yeah. Now, taking it back to your new endeavor, getting your own consulting business back up and running, how's that? How do you feel having that ownership? Like
I
this is
love it.
your
I love it. It feels right. Feels right. I actually quit a job. I had like a shooting position job just to keep the lights on as
Mhm.
uh as I was in between things and building it out. And so I hadn't secured a client, and I had a scheduling conflict, and it was basically, hey man, like I know you've got your thing, but you still are committed to this. Like we need you to be here. And I thought about it for a couple of days, and then I submitted a resignation before having any money coming in. So I
Yeah.
had a Cortez moment, if you will. It's like now it's
Burn
I
the
was like, it's
ships.
time to burn the ships, and fully commit to the endeavor.
Yeah.
And it was very unnerving, especially coming from the military, because you never have to think about pay.
Yeah.
It's, oh, I'm going to get paid. You always have that security. That was one of the great things about being in the teams is you're there unless you do something ridiculously screwed up, and then
Yeah.
you're going to get kicked out of the teams. And in the military, of course, there's always that, but as long as you operate from a place of integrity, you're fine. And so
Yeah.
I would say that one of the most stressful things you can have in the private sector is to worry about your livelihood. And that's something I talk about within my consulting picture is it
Yeah.
is relative stress. You're not worried about lives here. You're worried about livelihoods. You're
Mhm.
worried about that return. And that from a relative stress perspective, that's intense. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. I love being my own boss. I love bringing value to the private sector. And I mean, from a personal perspective, it's to change the world one relationship at a time. Like that's my individual goal. And for like my business, it's to build a society of mentors and leaders that can effectively navigate the chaos of the modern business world. It's
Yeah.
like that's like my consulting business goal. And I literally have them right here on my screen, and I read them in the morning, and I try and execute on those things.
Yeah.
So I love it. It's great.
I think that the other thing that this new endeavor, being your own captain on your own ship, it also brings back like that good, healthy fear. And I think that's something only we understand, or somebody that's lived in that high stakes world, that fear can be a friend. Fear can be a powerful source of motivation. It's like, fuck, it's on me. Like, and I don't understand why. Well, I do. I do understand why a lot of people don't engage with fear in a positive light. Like, it's not the paralyzing fear. It's the, oh shit, like this is on me. This is my fucking time to shine. It's going back to that, tapping into that operator fear, or being able to engage it, touching that dragon, be like, oh wait, like I'm in danger. I'm in a dangerous situation, but
Hmm.
it's okay because I know how to survive in this. I know how to thrive in this environment. And that's why so many of the people we look up to or the books that we read always say, like, hey, when you got to commit. If you really love this thing, there's no plan B. Motherfucker, like strap up, let's go. Like, let's fucking do it. And I think that's
Yeah,
what's really ultimately that's why you're gonna be successful in this. Like this is gonna be awesome to watch, man.
it's been a great journey already, and I love doing it. Like I doesn't it's exhausting at times, and it doesn't feel like work. I mean, it's very different from the
Yeah.
teams. And I've told people this that are looking to get out. I've said there is nothing that is going to replace that feeling of you standing on the tarmac
Yeah.
with rotors spinning on the helos and waiting for execute authority with your guy. And I get chills thinking about it now. Like
Yeah.
you're getting ready to go do the dirty, and you hear it come over comms is like, it's you've got approval or whatever code word comes out, and
Yeah.
it's let's go. Like there was nothing that's going to replace that as far as I'm concerned. And I love this. I love doing this. It doesn't feel like work to me. It's a passion of mine, and it's great. So, and now I get paid for it too, to invest in organizations and people that are bringing products that enhance people's lives.
Yeah.
It's still my way of giving back, if you will, to make a difference. And it's a very, very different lens. I'm not going over and fighting the war anymore and providing for the safety and security of our nation. I'm bringing value to the country and the world in a different fashion, helping startups bring their products to market. And some of them are really just amazing. And there's just some great people. So I feel blessed.
Yeah. It's the beauty of finding that second career, that next chapter. And I want everybody that's poured their life into SOF to find that, because while all of our brothers and sisters in arms and first responders deserve it, this is our community, our guys that truly have done the most remarkable thing anybody could ever hope to do. So then there's that little voice in the back of your head. It's like, well, I've done the impossible already. So what else could give me joy? What else could make me happy? It's like, dude, there's a whole world out there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah. And we need those guys. We need those the 1% of the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
To go out there and do amazing things for our civilian community.
Absolutely.
To give back and give hope and help mentor and coach the next generation. Because that's how we inspire others. It's not like, it's cool while we were doing the cool guy stuff. But when we have a chance to rub elbows with other young individuals who are looking for dreams, looking for the next chapter, like, we're going to do that on the outside, and no one's going to want to talk to you if you just become the angry dude that gets that part-time job fucking mopping floors somewhere.
Yeah, down the road. It's very true. I think there's an element, there's the fear of the unknown, right? That even operators, SOF personnel, we get into this rut. It's like, well, what are you going to do when you get out? Well, I'm going to go contract. Yeah. And which is still very valuable, service to deliver. And we can bring so much more to the nation and the world too,
Absolutely.
And it's just a question of transferring that knowledge. Yeah. Sorry, Denny. Yeah.
No, you're good. I just wanted to take time to acknowledge you and thank you for being here today, man. Being able to have another Honor Foundation grad who can speak to the importance of being able to find your fucking dream. Like, you reached for the highest echelon, the highest thing you could do, and you succeeded. Dream again, dream bigger. Be willing to go out there and say, you know what? I'm going to be a fucking master's degree holding civilian entrepreneur, and I'm going to kick ass. Don't just settle for, a quiet, timid life. You didn't do it before. You didn't settle for the quiet aspirations. You went out there and you got the best of the best. I think that our SEALs, our Rangers, our Green Berets, and our Air Force counterparts and special tactics are some of the best our nation has to offer.
Absolutely.
So they deserve to dream and have that big, fucking amazing next chapter. And it's stories like yours are going to help motivate others and inspire others to dream big again. So thank you for being here today, brother. Absolute pleasure. Great honor. And I cannot wait to have you back on the show when things are cooking with your business, man.
Oh, it's cooking. It's cooking. It's cooking already. So I'm so grateful. So grateful. But yeah. Life's busy and it's great.
Yeah. If you could, if you had any last minute words of advice to those individuals that are finding themselves getting that first foot on transition, what would it be?
Don't be afraid to take risks. You took huge, incalculable risks in your career, presumably from our peer group. We all saw combat. And don't play it safe now. Like, explore, go out there and figure out what you don't want to do. Talk to as many people within the community as possible. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll make time. It might take a little bit, but I'll make time. We'll have a good discussion. I love helping veterans transition and providing recommendations within that space. It's such a better network now than it was when I was getting out. It was still growing. Like, the Honor Foundation was still growing. And now, I mean, it's just huge. And there's so many people out there with a wealth of knowledge. Like, reach out to me on LinkedIn. We'll schedule a cup of coffee, and be prepared to chat for 30 minutes. We'll be fast and furious, and I'll give you some recommendations, but yeah, don't be afraid to take a risk. Yeah. Take notes, take a risk, bring value. But if you want to take a knee, absolutely nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong. I wish I would have taken a knee when I got out, but it is what it is. So
yeah.
But yeah, Denny, thanks for having me, man. This is great.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. If you don't mind, can I drop your LinkedIn on the episode description so guys or gals can hit you right off the bat?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a personal LinkedIn page. I have a page for Fatal Flaw, and I'm building out a website right now. So literally as we speak. So don't have an active URL right now, but it will be soon.
Perfect. And as soon as you have it, I will reach out. That way we can get it posted on our resources page. All right, guys. Till next time.
Awesome. Thanks, man.